Hello, baby T. Welcome to your grandparents' house, where I'm doing some laundry, and we'll see how quickly this video gets interrupted, either by timer for my laundry or them coming home from church to start working on the dinner we were invited for. But it's time to do some catching up. That sun is bright today, so if you're going to be able to see me at all, you're going to have to also look at this old cat tree that's fallen apart. But I had to even watch my own last video to find out where I left my story off at. And it was around Christmas time, and my husband and I had just replaced his car, and we found out that we would be able to go back to Prague at the beginning of February for another chance at baby T. So obviously a lot of stars had to align. Savings had to go well. Husband's paid time off, my paid time off, all had to line up. We decided we were just going to do a week this time, especially because my OBGYN had been very supportive and would be like very understanding if I were to come in just for like a lining scan or something like that. Might still get billed outside of my insurance, but willing to be very helpful with it, and they definitely were. But it was a little bit stressful this time around, getting everything together. I'll have to think about where to start and finish off with maybe a little slideshow of what we did while we were enjoying ourselves in Prague. So the first thing I had to do, of course, was get my medications, which I have to get shipped from overseas because finding a clinic in the United States that has the specific medications and is willing to accept a check prescription is a bit of a headache. Also, getting it to me, it gets to be a bit of a mess. I had good experience with Zen Pharmacy out of London, and this is the first time I ran into a problem. This time around, instead of getting estrogen pills, I was getting an estrogen spray. And basically, my package got caught up in customs. And I think part of that is it contains an aerosol, which is flammable. It's considered a hazardous material. So, obviously, if someone is importing a hazardous material, they want some more information about the person who's receiving it. And it took quite a while. It took some contacting of the courier to get to the bottom of how to get this out of customs and get it to me. But that's part of why I ordered it well in advance, because I was anticipating some sort of delay. So I did finally get the medication. However, it was clear customs had manhandled it, which leads me to another part of my story while we're in Prague, if I remember it. But I got my medications, I started my protocol on time, and when my lining check was done, it was a little thin. And they said, okay, we want you to try these estrogen patches. Here's the prescription. You'll want to start them as soon as possible and get your lining checked in a few more days. And that's when I started to panic because, again, it takes a while for me to get my prescriptions filled when they're written by my doctor in Czechia. But this is where God's grace stepped in. Earlier in 2022, I had tried some hormone replacement therapy that involved estrogen patches, and it didn't go particularly well, especially for going into an egg donor treatment where we need to have a very specific start date for my period. So I ended up with a handful left over, and it was just enough to last me until we got to Prague. And it was cutting it so close down to the wire that basically I was telling people that this is going to be the appointment that tells me if we're going to Prague on vacation or going to Prague for treatment, because there was no going back at this point. Like, I don't think we could cancel our flights at that point. And I got my lining check. I was hoping to get a response right away because I got the earliest appointment possible at my OBGYN, which is right before they close in Prague. So I sent all the information, and I hoped and I prayed that I'd get a response. And much later than I was expecting, I got an email from my amazing coordinator, who was clearly working off hours, who said, "It's too late for an embryologist to look at this today, but I will contact someone tomorrow to take a brief look at it, and we'll find out if you're going to continue with treatment." And I was able to schedule my embryo transfer for the day before we left to come home. We gave ourselves a week for wiggle room for this very reason, and it turned out to be just enough wiggle room, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you, God. So one of the first things we did while we were in Prague is we wanted to set ourselves up for success if we had to go through this process again. If it was for a sibling, if it was for another try, we want to, in the future, do a week at a time, hopefully. So that meant saving my husband's sample. So that was one of the first things we did, was stop by the clinic for that. We also had to renew some paperwork, sign some new stuff. And then basically we just had a week to enjoy ourselves. And we chose a couple activities. We went back to the zoo because we weren't able to see everything we wanted to last time. So we made sure to do that. We got to see more of the castle. Oh man, I'm having trouble even remembering now what all we did. You'll see in our slideshow. We had lots of fun. We also did a fair amount of just relaxing, taking it easy. One real stressful part, which I said I would get back to with the whole my stuff getting manhandled in customs. While we were, I believe, at the zoo, I had to start a new box of my estrogen spray, and I opened it up and followed the instructions for getting it started and found out it was broken, and I needed more as soon as possible. I was planning on buying more when we went in for the embryo transfer, but I needed more now. So luckily by that time we were about to leave the zoo anyway, but we hurried out, went straight to the clinic. I had emailed my coordinator saying, "Hey, is there any way we can drop by to pick this up?" And we didn't hear back, but when we got there, we just talked to the receptionist, and they were very helpful. They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll grab some for you. You know, we know you're a patient here, and you know, you can pay right here and go on your way." Which we did. I was able to take the medication not long after. Unfortunately, I did have to throw an entire thing of medication away that I had paid for, and it's not necessarily cheap. But, I mean, it's where we're at. It's where we're at. Well, the big day came. It was a Friday. We went to the clinic at the scheduled time, ready and hoping for the best. One of the things I was a little bit concerned about was the embryo defrosting, but defrosted just fine. We were a bit disappointed that my husband couldn't go with me yet again. But I went on down, got in my hospital gown and little cap, and again waited for them to call me. Waited. and eventually went in the procedure room, and they showed me the little embryo and uh, showed me the little air pocket on the ultrasound that it would be in. And then I went to lay down and rest for a while. And they eventually brought me my paperwork. Went upstairs to see my husband. Got a picture. Bought my medications, and basically after that it was all about resting until it was time to go home. We were much more prepared for our trip home this time. Last time we did the recommended arrive 3 to 4 hours to the airport ahead of time for international flights, but it doesn't quite work that way at the Prague airport. You can't even check in until a couple hours before your flight, so this time we made sure to just arrive a couple hours beforehand. Had a rather uneventful flight back, but once we arrived home, first of all, since I was bringing medications in with me, Customs took me aside to get some more information, and I was freaking out because I could not for the life of me find my paper prescription for some of my medication. I was like, it would be right here. Where is it? Where is it? They barely even looked at it. They just, okay, why do you have this medication? Okay, understandable. Have a good day. Got your passport information. You're good. But then we couldn't find our baggage on the carousel. So we passed what would be considered the international border, so we could not go back. And we went down to the Delta baggage information area, and they got our ticket information. They're like, it says it's still up there, but we couldn't go get it. And basically they said whenever they clear the carousel, they'll bring the unclaimed luggage down here, so you're just gonna have to wait. So we waited for quite a while, and after a while I went back to the desk. I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, like, how often do they clear the carousel? Like, is it after every flight? Is it in between flight? Like, how often does it happen? Because I'm debating if we should, like, leave and come back, but I'm also trying to figure out how we'd make it back to the airport at some point. And one of the agents was like, they started explaining, they were like, let me see if they can bring it down. So they called up to that area and talked with someone. We gave them a description of our luggage, and they actually had someone meet them at the, like, basically border in the airport to hand it over. And we got our luggage. It took a little bit, but we got it. And I purposely packed things so that if our checked bag should disappear into the oblivion, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It was basically a whole bunch of clothes, dirty clothes at that, and some other random things of very little value. And, like, they were still very, very helpful. Like, at first it was kind of annoying, but, like, it was within what they're reasonably expected to do. And overall, I just say we've had good experiences with Delta. Even with the hiccups we've had good experiences with Delta Airlines. So definitely recommend them. Very nice. So I am currently 8 days post-transfer. I went home sick from work on Friday because, I mean, I was a bit nauseous when I started, but I was hoping that was a good sign. But it got a lot worse and started getting accompanied by some other symptoms, and I started having trouble even just, like, standing up at work. So I asked to go home. They sent me home, and I slept, and I slept, and I slept. When I got home at about 11:30, I hopped right into bed, and slept until my 2 o'clock medication alarm went off, and I still went to bed at like 8:30 that night, and my husband woke me up at 8:30 a.m. the next day. I slept a lot. And I'm feeling a bit better now. Still a little bit of nausea. But I'm hoping that's a good thing. We nicknamed the embryo Blobby, because when I was explaining the embryo grades to Jason, I basically said that it's just a little blobby. And he was like, Blobby? I was like, we're going to call you Blobby. We got little Blobby in my belly, as far as we know. Hopefully Blobby sticks. And hopefully Blobby grows into you, baby T. So I'll follow this with some pictures and video from our trip. Again, we got to enjoy ourselves, and as stressful as this whole thing was, shortly before we left for Prague, someone had commented in one of my support groups, like, how in the world, like, this costs so much, like, what's the average price? And everyone was saying, oh, it's like, $30,000 for traditional IVF, not even donor egg IVF. And I was like, holy cow. Thank you, Jesus, for sending me whoever it was who clued me into going to Prague, because with all our tourist stuff, and there's my laundry alarm, with all our tourist stuff and 2 trips, we may have gotten around $18,000 or $19,000 that we've spent so far on our journey to baby T, and it's just mind-blowing that we're this far into trying and haven't hit that yet. So we are very, very grateful. But anyway, here's some pictures, and I can't say when the next update will be, because good or bad, I'm probably going to want to wait a while before I vlog again. So, here's hoping we got some good news. Yeah, now it's moving. Finally got my camera up. Is that it?
Nope.
Oh, no, there it goes.
Que parece que está hace ver, ¿viste? Y ahí para.
Get one last spin on camera. Maybe. I think we're done. May as well get a little more footage. Let's see the baby playing. Mom is up there. Whee! Oh, looks like Mama might be coming down. Oh, nope, there's another one. Another little one. Oh, but Mama is moving.
Mama's over there.
Yep.
That's Dada.
Oh, yeah. They're big.
Big giant walking carpet.
What's he doing with the rope?
Well, that's for him to know and you to find out.
Okay, zoom one hates me. Gotta check out the view, not only of the zoo, but of the city. If I zoom in, you can see the castle over there. Cathedral. Beautiful. Polar bear, what do you hear? It's coming down for feeding time. So cute. Yummy, yummy. There he is. Playful as a pup. Got some penguins here. Enjoying a nice little swim inside. Their outside habitat's being worked on. Shake your tail.
Gotta make sure all that oil stays on there.
I can get these guys flying. Oh yeah, of course, as soon as I get my camera out, they stop. Oh, here we go. And of course, there's this guy. Hello. Okay, I told a lot of people about how these doors work. Here. And then we have to wait for the other one to close. Because this one's red because that door's still open. And it turns green. There we go. Hey, river otters. Diving and playing around.
The ones that we're used to seeing back home.
Hey. He's cleaning his plumage, but it looked like he might spread his tail feathers, show off the plumage. Oh yeah, here we go. It's just cleaning, but it's still interesting to see how big and long those tail feathers are. It's gonna fly again. So that would be cool to see too. It's just grooming. This, friends, is a cassiary. And if you ever get this close in real life without a massive glass panel behind you, prepare to die. Just pray to whatever God you believe in and meet your maker. These things are killer beasts. Elephants keep playing. don't know if they're fighting or just playing, but they've been getting on each other's nerves a little bit. Or scratching at least. The camera doesn't want to work. Here's a video of the skyline from the castle, at least that I can get. So? We're inside the cathedral more than we have been before. We bought tickets. So I'm just kind of doing in the center of the main area. See the Gothic architecture, ceilings. Beautiful. This room is roped off, but I wanted to capture all of its beauty. This is the old royal palace. This is the clock we were told about at Amsterdam Schiphol.
I actually looks like he paints with time on there. That's actually pretty dang cool.
Wipes it away. It'll draw a new minute hand.
Cleans it up.